Welcome to part 3. No, is this part 3? No, this is 1, 2, 3. Part 3 of my YouTube video series about being a full-time reseller. And when I started to make this video, please go back and watch part 1, which gives the introduction, and part 2, which talks about the pros of being a full-time reseller. I'm Jocelyn. I call myself the PhD reseller because I have a PhD and I resell. And the reason why I started to make these videos, and particularly this video series, is because I saw so many people who want to go full-time as a reseller and realizing that they needed a little bit more information than what was provided for them, or they were getting like really not the best information in the world. So I am going to go through now the cons of being a full-time reseller, because hey, no matter what you do, there's pros and cons to everything. Nothing is rainbows and sprinkles and Disney characters and have happy endings. Some of the stuff isn't that great. So we're going to talk about 20 cons today. So let's go ahead and get started. The first one, and there are no in particular order, and what you find might be a con, might be like, something to deal with. And other times it might be like a deal breaker for you. So if you're reading this, you're like, gosh, I never thought about this. But I would also say that any kind of con that you come across, there are ways to work around it or think about it. I mean, you do that all the time, right? Your job, nothing in your job is ever important. Relationships aren't 100%. You take some things, you try to change stuff. Don't ever try to change a man or a woman. What you get is what you get. But that's another conversation. So let's go ahead and get started. So number 1, the first con is no consistent paycheck. I have never, ever, in the past couple years of reselling, ever got a consistent anything. No sales are consistent. Now, I know that I have worked other jobs where, especially when I worked in a restaurant where I was a server, sometimes a Tuesday morning lunch is not going to be the same as a Saturday evening. But for the most part, you sort of can kind of guesstimate, right? Maybe Tuesday you make something. If you work a double shift on Saturday, you're going to make that. For the most part, they were sort of consistent. eBay or online reselling just is not consistent at all if you're talking about a daily basis. So the thing that I do to go around this is I look at my sales per month and I don't look at it in days. And I know with the summer slowdown, people are like, I haven't been making da, da, da. I'm looking at it per month. Am I making consistent? And they go up and down, about 20-25%. But, that's what it is. That's the con. The second one is no benefits. There are no benefits that you normally would get at your job. No health benefits, no life insurance. If you get sick, there's no sickness insurance. If you fall down in your house, there's no workers' compensation. So there are no benefits. And as much as people like to say, well, I just take a chance, go watch Dave Ramsey a few times and you will see how, especially not having health insurance, has been extremely detrimental financially. Do you know that 40 to 60% of all bankruptcies are caused by medical bills? Okay, so that's something to think about. Number 3, no sick days. Right now, you can work whenever you want to, and you can work whatever hours you want to, which is what I said in the part 2. But here's the thing: there are no sick days. If I wake up in the morning and I got to ship out that shipment, I got to go. Now, there's some people that don't have sick days, or some people that say, if you don't call in before, if it's 24 hours, it's a no call, no show. Yeah, it was my last job. If I didn't call within 24 hours, that it was considered a strike against you. I'm like, what? Luckily, I never got sick, so that was a blessing. But anyways, I digress. But there's no sick days. There's no sick days. There's no sick days. If you're sick and you can't work, you got to figure out how to make it work. And unfortunately, most of these places don't care, right? They're consumers. Yeah, I've unfortunately heard of people who have been very ill. They've been in the hospital, and they're like, I just, things got distracted and be like, why didn't you put it on vacation mode? And it's like, I was laid out with pneumonia with a tube down my throat. I wasn't too concerned about my eBay business, and which you shouldn't be. If you were sick, you should be concentrating on your health and getting yourself better. But if you call eBay, there's no, well, let me send you my doctor's note. They're going to say, well, we're sorry, at this point in time, we suggest you find somebody else to go to, right? Number 4, no easy way to make extra money. I remember, and this is a little bit harder. I think this is much more relevant to people who are part-time and versus people who are full-time. But still, there's people that are full-time that you can earn some extra money, right? You can work overtime if you're if you make an hourly wage. I remember when I was waiting tables, and let's say I was short on the rent, and I'd walk in and say, hey, who wants to go home? I do, right? And I go and I said, I know I need to make $100. I'm short $100. I'm going to work 2-3 days and I'm going to do that. You can list and list and list and list and put things on sale and promote and send out coupons and send out offers. And sometimes there's really nothing you can do, and you're not going to make any extra money than what you did. And that just happens. But most of the time, the other jobs, especially if you're working overtime, they're not going to say, well, unless, like I said, unless you're waiting tables, you might have a bad day where you're not making any money. But your job's not going to say, well, we only had, let's say you're working in a call center and you're working overtime. They're not going to say, well, we only had 5 calls a day, so that's not enough money to give you. You came in on Saturday, or you're a nurse and you work differential pay, and your workload wasn't that much, so we're not going to pay you. That doesn't happen. So there's really no easy way to make extra money. You kind of make consistent money, and you get kind of pops where you're like, oh my gosh, I got a lot of sales, and then another week, oh my gosh, there's no sales. But it's really hard to make extra money really quickly, unless sometimes it's like you just take the price and maybe try to sell it locally on Facebook Marketplace. Number 5, there's no legal recourse if something goes wrong. Though there was a video not too long ago that I saw on YouTube where a guy he's like, I've been on eBay since late 1990s, and I've sold like 300. I'm not a big seller or anything like that. And he's like, my account just got shut down, and I call and they don't talk to me. You get Vero bans. He's like, I don't know what I did. There is no legal recourse. They can do that to you. Now, you could go out depending on if they're holding funds and all this kind of stuff. But, when you sign up, you agree to arbitration and stuff like that. If you were to walk into your job tomorrow and they fired you, and you might have some legal recourse, especially if they did it discriminatorily, or they can't hold on to your check forever, 6 months, if you've returned all your equipment, those sorts of things. So there is a very hard part legally that is really hard when you're a reseller. Now, to combat this, what you do is don't put all your eggs in one basket. I have 3 eBay accounts, because if one gets shut down, hopefully the other 2 will stay open. But eBay, Mercari, Amazon, and sometimes it gets to be very, and sometimes I have to shut it down and say, like, okay, I'm not going to list so much stuff on here, but the accounts are still open. So if something happens, I can go and start, doing more stuff on the other ones. Number 6, fees versus taxes. So in my first video, the last video I said, hey, you don't have to pay any taxes, but you got to pay fees. And sometimes these fees, by the time you add on the fee and you add on the shipping, you have paid no more difference than if you were on taxes. So, it's a balancing act. You choose, but you get one devil for another devil. Yeah. Number 7, no unemployment. If, for example, if all of a sudden they shut down your store, and you walk down and you go to the unemployment office and you say, hey, I want to file for employment. Do you have your separation notice? No, but I have this Poshmark email that says they closed down my Poshmark closet. And they're like, what? No, we need a letter from a job. But that's been my job. Have you put into unemployment? No? Well, bye. Right? So if something happens, there's no backup. There's no unemployment for you to collect on. So you need to make sure that you're saving your money and that you're putting your money away for a rainy day. Don't go out every day and get something and be like, oh, look at all the money I make. If you're trying to do this as a reseller, you're going to have to make sure to save for these little things that actually happen. Number 8, work seeps into your personal life. Now, some people have professional jobs where, they may work from home and you have to work from home, or you may have a very high position where you're on call for all the time. That's a little bit different, but I'm talking about just like normal people When I would get off of work, I'd shut my computer. That was it. There was no phones. Nobody was calling me. Nobody was emailing me. Weekends, 6 o'clock, I was done. I was not expected to do anything. And although, yes, you shouldn't have to feel like you are on call all the time in your reselling business, but it is a 24-hour day, 7-day a week job. Right? You're answering calls, you are not answering calls, but you're answering emails, you're sending out offers, you're responding back to people, you're listing, unlisting it, and it seeps into your everyday life. The other thing is, many of you are like me. All your inventory is in your house. There's no way of not walking by it and seeing it. Sometimes it's seeing death piles and going, oh my gosh, I can't stand this anymore. Other times it's looking at inventory that's not moving. Why are you not selling? That sort of thing. So it does seep into your life, and it's all day, every day. Your phone bangs all day long. If you don't hear the cha-ching sound, you're like, oh, damn, I haven't heard this cha-ching sound forever, girl. Right. It can get to you and just wear you out. Number 9. That sort of says, like, work-life balance. It's really hard, right? You do have to determine a time for you to be able to do this. And this is also, I think, important if you're part-time. I remember I was watching another YouTube video, and the guy said, I go to work and I come home, and now I've got to play with my kids and play with my family, eat, do all these sorts of things. And then at the same time, now I've got to go and now pull out this stuff and list and all this kind of stuff. It's like I'm tired. It doesn't feel like there's a work-life balance. And so you're going to have to figure out how to make that work. Whether or not you say, I'm not going to work on Sundays. Maybe you shut everything off at 2. Maybe it's you hire somebody to help you out, but you'll have to figure that out. It's a little bit harder to do the work-life balance. Surprisingly, most people think it's going to be easier, like you don't have to, but I'm like, I find it to be much harder to separate out work and life. Number 10, you have to learn new skills. In the last video, I said the pro was that you didn't need any education, but you do have to learn new skills, keywords, and how to, like, measuring. What are you talking about? Measuring a dress? Arm to pit? What? Breast to breast and neck to... What kind of neckline is this? What kind of pattern is this? Oh my gosh. So all those things are new skills you have to learn. Learning how to ship. eBay is different from Mercari. It's different from Poshmark. It's different from Facebook. Mercari sends you a label that's not right, and then you have to, how do I print out this label? You got to do the cutting tools and do your snipping and cut it and save it. It's all new skills that you have to learn, which may be challenging from some, but and I learn new stuff every day. And sometimes I'm like, so someone's like, it didn't arrive in the mailbox. I say, oh, okay. Now what do I do, right? Because I haven't had that happen too often. So that's what I needed to do. 11, it's stressful. I'm telling you all, it is stressful. Very, very stressful. Because especially if you're going from a full-time job to full-time reselling, your job is different levels of stress. Every job has stress. But it's now like this added stress of listing and posting and shipping and all this kind of stuff. And then you have the added stress of, oh my gosh, this now has to pay the bills. This has got to pay the bills. And if things are slow and things aren't moving and things aren't growing, you're like, what do I do? What do I do? It can be very, very stressful. And even doing this part-time is stressful. My brain just stopped working. It's just stressful. It's all an email. It's got me I think. Number 12, no one to take over. I'll go back to waiting tables. So you wait tables. If you've been in the food service industry, you've heard of being in the weeds. Being in the weeds just means that you have got so much going on that you need somebody to help you out. And your coworkers tease you, looks like you're in the weeds. You're like, yeah, can you? And if you have a nice coworker, they'll say, hey, what can I do to help you out? Can you take the drink orders on table 12? Can you? Yeah, and I did this for you. There is nobody else to help you if you are in the weeds. There is nobody that is going to. I just yesterday did my first U.S. Postal Service pickup. Never showed up. Never showed up. So now I got to go do all this stuff today, right? Now I got to call the people and say you didn't pick up. And now there wasn't anybody to go do that because I'm sitting at the house making sure that they showed up and picked up the stuff while I'm sitting here at the house. So I couldn't have someone to say, okay, it's 4:30. The post office is going to close. They're not here yet. Let's just go. Let's just go on a go. Or say, okay, look out the side because there's nobody to pick up the load for you. Now, you may have a spouse or you may have a partner or something like that, but no one's going to do whatever you need to do as best as you do unless you have a team, right? If you're both are doing it, then it's a little bit different. Number 13, the choices you make may cost you money. Let me just say this. The choices you make will cost you money. Everybody has bad things. They have bad sales. They have bad buys. They get scammed, which really isn't anything that you can really help. But you'll pick up something, you're like, this is the hottest thing in the world. And then you flip it up, like someone had said they got some pants the other day. It was a YouTube video. So they got some pants and then they're like, this is a brand that sells well, and they get home and they're like, the crotch was taken out, and there's nothing you can do about that, right? They're bad sales. Let's go back to, if you watched my other video, I talk about making a change in a breakfast joint. So you run in let's say you work in a breakfast joint. Now you are the owner, and versus a person that says, hey, why don't we start selling pineapple juice? And you now switch from being the person who suggests the employee to now the owner who decides to start selling pineapple juice. One of the pineapple juice doesn't sell. And you're opening up cans of pineapple juice and they're going bad and they're going bad. And you're like, man, I spent all this money on pineapple juice. You can't go to your employee and say, hey, remember that thing you talking about, the pineapple juice? It wasn't. I spent hundreds of dollars on pineapple juice. So I want to take it out of your check. No. It's on you. So you make the choices, you make the decisions, and the decisions will cost you money. They just will. You will have bad buys. You will have shipping that you just did not, that came out. You didn't pack it well. And it's all on you. There's nobody else. There's no manager for you to call over to say, take care of this customer. Everything is all on you. Number 14. No bonuses. No Christmas bonus, no end of the quarter bonus, no end of the year bonus. There's no bonuses. So if you have a job where you get bonuses, there's no COLAs, cost of living adjustments. There's nothing like that. It's actually probably less because the post office keeps going up on the rates, and you're like, oh gosh, I have to now put it on the person and right? So there's no extra bonuses around Christmas time to make you feel better. Now, Christmas time, you do make a lot of, tend to make a little bit more higher money in sales, so that helps out at least. Number 15, no office parties. Now, you may have been like in the first video, like, I hate my job, I hate the people I work with, but for the most part, most people usually like somebody they work with, and they really like parties. No Cinco de Mayo, no Easter egg hunt for the kids, no Christmas, no Thanksgiving, and no Secret Santa. There is no parties for you to attend to, and sometimes you can have some fun, right? You get away, someone else cooks for you, someone buys stuff, you get to try different things, you just get to relax and have some fun. And those are gone whenever you do this full time. Number 16, it can get lonely. It can get very, very lonely. At some point, even if you work a job and you're talking about work, usually you talk about certain personal things with people. What did you do this weekend? Even I find like even the Facebook groups, even though they're there to provide you with some way to communicate with people, what are you talking about? You're talking about reselling. No one's saying, hey, did you check out that movie last week? And you're like, what are you talking about? You have to go find another group, and then you're in 50,000 groups, when oftentimes you just want to just talk to somebody. Virtually being on something is really hard, so it can get difficult. It can get extremely lonely. No, number 17, no company matching retirement. And this is something that I'm going to talk about in a subsequent video, to talk about what are the things you're going to look at. That matching of retirement is really, really important when you're talking about growing your income, especially when you're younger. When you talk about growing your income, those are things that you have got to have. And if you don't have it from the company, you're going to have to get it to yourself. So that extra bit of money that you would get for your retirement, you're actually not going to have. Number 18, multiple hats. If you work in an office and the printer breaks, what do? You're going to call IT, or maybe not IT, or the maintenance man. That's what you call the maintenance man. The computer breaks down. You call you call IT, right? Something, you're going to call somebody to help you out. If any of those things break, you are everything. You're IT, you are customer service, you are logistics, you are supply manager, you are marketing, you are the photographer, you are the writer, you are your social media marketer, you are everything, and you run everything. And it sometimes gets hard, right? Because if you were to do everything, it's hard to be an expert at one thing. And as you keep trying, and it happens, one thing goes and another one wanes, right? You might take some really awesome, great pictures, and by the time you've taken all these pictures and you move everything down, you're like, oh, my descriptions, I can't write any more descriptions, I'm tired. Or you take them all and you put them all in drafts and you say, I'll write in the descriptions later on. It's really hard to perfect anything, because as you start trying to perfect, something else wanes and wanes, and it changes all the time, right? It changes. Number 19, no work perks. A lot of jobs do have some sort of work perks, which is maybe it's discounted movie tickets. You get discounted tickets to Disney World or Disneyland, or they send you something. You're in some kind of contest, anything of that nature. You have, some money they have a career health fair where you can go and they bring in all these vendors and you get tons of pens and pencils and things of that nature that you then go try to flip on eBay or anywhere else. But the point is that all the perks are gone. There are no perks. It's just bread and butter, and water. That's all you get when you're doing this. If you want some perks, you got to go out and get it yourself, or find some way to get those. And then 20. It gets dirty and boring, right? Reselling isn't the most exciting thing in the world. It's really not. Sometimes some parts of it are great, and sometimes you can get really motivated and you're like, I'm really motivated to do lots of stuff and all this kind of stuff. But for the most part, it's dirty. You're at yard sales and you're like, gosh, let me get to the yard sale before it gets hot. You're dragging stuff around. You're going to liquidation. You're getting liquidations. You open up the box and there's lotion sprayed all over the place. Things are broken up. You go to a storage unit, auction that off, and you open it up and there's a pissy mattress in there. How the heck am I going to get rid of that? You go to the bins. You stick your hand in there and you touch something that's nasty, right? So it can get really dirty. And then it can get really boring. Doing the same thing. You're doing the same thing over and over and over again. It's nothing real. And that's why people buy different things and sell different stuff. You're like, oh my gosh, if I look at this tie one more time, I'm going to scream. But that's what you do, right? it gets boring. It's not anything nothing's changed very much in the last couple of years. I think people when they make changes, I think people get really excited. They tend to get mad. I think it's just because it's just something that's makes you feel different, right? Because you're like, it's at least a change. If not, everything stays exactly the same. So let me know what you think. If you like these sort of things, give this video a like, and be sure to consider subscribing to my channel. And let's talk about what's going to be happening in the fourth video. Fourth video that I will be doing is, I'm moving on along. I'm getting kind of tired. It's 12 o'clock. It's time for me to get something to eat. So the fourth video is talking about my transition to full-time reselling. What happened? What got me here? And has it been like? All right. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Bye.